system. First up is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Stan Vaught. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, I ask for you to bow your heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. First, we have the approval of the agenda. Comments or questions? Move to approve. Thank you, Ms. Rosales. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passed. Sorry. Next, we have the approval of the consent agenda. Any questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tidwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have no speakers. We have Rutherford Proud.
John, I think we're going to start, we have Stewart's Creek High School Band, and I think we're going to start with the video first.
Welcome, the Stewart's Creek High School Marching Band. Traveling all the way from Smyrna, Tennessee, they are proud to represent the Volunteer State in the 2025 Presidential Inaugural Parade. the drums continues. Established in 2013, that band has rapidly become one of Tennessee's premier high school music programs. This band has participated in numerous civic events that honor significant moments in our nation's history, like the 75th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, Captain Jeff Cuss, United States Marine Corps Memorial Dedication, Chicago Thanksgiving Day Parade, and a Lincoln Memorial performance as well. The Stewart's Creek High School Marching Band, everybody! Make them feel welcome here in D.C.
I want to thank Dr. Sullivan. I want to thank the school board for your commitment to us and for recognizing our band tonight. The journey leading up to this performance at the presidential inauguration is something that I personally will never forget, and something our families, our children, and even our children's children will always remember. It's not a common thing to have the opportunity to represent your school, your county, your state, and yes, even the great United States of America. And to do this at this event was just amazing for them to be a part of. I also want to say that I am so very proud of our directors. I have 3 student leaders representing the band here tonight. I cannot say how proud I am of you, and I think you'll join me in saying a job very, very well done. It was amazing. Give them a hand. I cannot leave this podium without giving a very public thank you to our Tennessee delegation, and especially to Senator Marsha Blackburn. She went to bat for us, and there's no doubt about it. And in a conversation that she had with me, I quote, on the day before when we found out we were in the arena, she said, I quote, "I was not going to have those kids disappointed." And guess what? They were not. The video that you just saw, very fortunate to see. I was able to get in at 3 a.m., got in line, hoped I could get into the arena, was able to make it. That video is from the Jumbotron, the big screen that they showed to be able to share it with you tonight. And so at this point, less from me, and I want you to hear more from our directors, Debbie Burton, Michael Chester, and again, 3 of our student leaders.
Hello all, I'm Debbie Burton, one of the band directors. I'm just going to speak briefly to how amazing our students are at Stewart's Creek High School and how remarkable that performance was. So we were not exactly prepared for this performance. And what you saw was the first time that the students actually performed what they actually performed. In our preparation to go to DC, we were expecting an outdoor parade on a 5-lane street, 56 feet across, had the band set up to do ranked 9 across. And then as we found out just, maybe 18 hours before the actual event, that it was going to be moved inside, and we would only have 15 feet of space. And instead of everything that we had rehearsed and practiced before we left was now out the window, and we had to restart in DC with no place to practice. And so that evening, Sunday evening, the night before, we asked the students to come outside, get dressed up in their winter gear, got up on the 3rd floor of a parking garage that was attached to our hotel and set them up in a whole new formation. Spent about 45 minutes walking through the process, but still without our instruments, still not actually being able to practice what they were going to do on national television. Next morning got up, got to DC, got into the arena. They put us in a holding area, which was the visitors' hockey locker room, which was way too small for our band of 155. So we were packed in there like sardines, still not really a place to practice. They did let us warm up in half of a gym, which was still too small for us to practice our formation. We found a hallway backstage behind the presidential stage. I got to line up, but again, couldn't practice with our instruments. The first time the students actually performed was on television and what you just saw. And they were actually fantastic throughout the whole process. And what I think I will take most from the performance, wow, still, is when we finished, we marched out of the arena and went straight back to our locker room. And the students were on cloud nine, bouncing off the walls, jumping up and down and cheering. All was missing was the champagne. It was as if we had just won the Super Bowl. And we were in a locker room, so it would have been perfect. But we didn't have it. And so I'm so proud of them and so amazed by them every day that I'm so happy that I get to work with them. But I'm going to let them speak a little bit as well. So, yeah, Faith is going to come first.
Hello everybody, my name is Faith Dameron and I am a 12th grader and I do play the piccolo and the flute. And I just wanted to talk about what this event meant to me because I am a senior and being here for 4 years and being in band all throughout middle school has truly been a journey and experience and a commitment. It's definitely been one worth a while. It's been a lot of work, but I think I'm really, really excited and was really thankful to be able to have this opportunity. It meant so much to me because we've worked so hard to come to this, and then my band directors and our principal, and just it was amazing to find out that we would be able to represent Tennessee in this way. And also it was another thing to find out that we possibly wouldn't be able to do that. I was totally in emotional distress, but I was so happy to be able to actually be at the event, be at the inauguration, and represent the state of Tennessee. And we worked really, really hard to come to this. I know that our band directors worked super, super hard to be able to bring everything together in the short amount, like maybe 2 weeks that we had. But I'm really, really thankful for this event, and I'm happy that I can be able to share the story with my kids someday. And thank you.
Hi, my name is Madison. I'm a junior, and I play the trumpet. I'm also serving as the trumpet section leader, and this was kind of like a turnaround, and I guess it felt like deja vu because my dad actually he marched in the inaugural parade in 1997. Was it 1997? 1997. And he was the drum major at TSU for, I think, all of his years in college. And it was really exhilarating to have this experience. I mean, putting in the work, having sectionals, making sure everybody's notes are right. I mean, we put in so much work. And then when I got the call that we were not doing it, I was just like, so this is all for nothing? And it was really an amazing experience. I don't think I'll ever have this opportunity ever again in my life, ever to represent Tennessee in this way, ever to be on national television like in this way, and it's just amazing. I really appreciate what Mr. Chester and Ms. Burton and Dr. Harrell have done for us to get us to this point. And thank you.
Good evening. My name is Drew Meyer. I am the drum captain at Stewart's Creek High School, and I'm the 11th grade. I really just want to start out by saying how amazing of an experience this was and how big of an opportunity it was. Whenever we found out we were going to Washington, D.C., I was in the shower. I got out, read my phone, not even dressed, ran out in the towel. I was so happy. I went to tell my parents. They were just as happy for me. But whenever we found out that the outdoor parade was canceled, I was so bummed. Like, I can't even tell you how sad I was. But then we were sitting in a hotel conference room with all 160 of us. The room was maybe meant for 40 people. And whenever they told us that we were getting to perform, I was back up to cloud nine. I was so excited. And then the following day, we had to wait in that locker room for the whole day, like 5 hours. And it was hot in there, it was cramped in there, but the whole thing was worth it whenever we got to march out to that stage and get to represent our state and our county. It was also just really cool getting to see all the important people like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Got to see Elon Musk, he walked right past us. I mean, it was really just a great experience, and I'm just so glad that we got to have that opportunity. And lastly, I just want to thank our band directors and Dr. Harrell for just being able to get us there and not stopping the fight to make us perform. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Chester, and I'm one of the other band directors at Stewart's Creek High School. And it's really hard to kind of follow a great act here. There are so many things that the word thank you is something that we say quite a bit, but even at that, to be able to express the gratitude and the sincerity and the passion and the reflection of the values of our program, and having that opportunity to be able to not only represent Stewart's Creek High School, the town of Smyrna, and Rutherford County schools, and the volunteer state, it was an opportunity of a lifetime. At Stewart's Creek, one of our program philosophies is that tomorrow starts today. And we take the philosophy that, in order for us to help, have an impact on our society, in order for us to build a better society, it has to start with these guys. It has to start with our young students that, will be our future leaders. And so, to be able to come together and to be able to showcase, the talents of our program, the talents of our school system, was truly an amazing experience that I, as a teacher, will never forget. And I know that, the emotions, the short amount of time that we had leading into it, and all of the rehearsals and the snow days that we had to contend with, and then, getting over the hurdle of getting all the fundraising done, and then right before we're getting on the plane, getting the call that we've been removed from the lineup and that we weren't going to get to perform. For me, the 72 hours that was around that time period, and many of them will attest to this, the myriad of emotions that we spent. I didn't know that you could experience all of the wide gamut of human emotions in the range of 72 hours, but it was amazing that at the very end that the adults, the elected leaders, everybody that were the champions of these students, everybody came together. And this was a time when we can sit and look at how music and the arts brought a community together. And I think we know that power that the arts have in the lives of our students, and what that does to help galvanize a town, a community, it pays dividends. And we are just so appreciative. Like I said, I'm just one part in this whole operation here. I have a wonderful staff, and Miss Burton, our middle school directors, our percussion director, Dr. Harrell, our administrative team, all of our faculty members, you all as board members. I mean, just everybody that we were able to come in contact with in that short amount of time, where January would have just been a normal January, but this was such a special time and such a unique time. And even to find out that, there it was on January 20th, 1961, that the Central High School Band, was one of the very first bands from Rutherford County that we were aware of that, performed in the parade. For us to be able to kind of pay homage to those alums and again, to the greatness of the Rutherford County school system was truly amazing. So, from the bottom of our hearts, we just want to say thank you for supporting our students, supporting the arts, creating a great school system where we as teachers can not only survive but thrive. I know in today's day and age with public schools kind of under a lot of scrutiny right now, there's a lot of things that are, that we have to deal with, and especially you all have to deal with. But we're very fortunate for your leadership and your guidance and allowing us to be able to give our very best to the very best. So we want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts from all of us at Stewart's Creek, the Stewart's Creek High School Band, and thank you so much.
I just want to tell you, and I think I speak for the entire board in this city and this school system, that when we saw you all on TV performing, our hearts swelled with pride. So you all brought a lot of joy and a lot of memories, and I know it was a roller coaster of emotions, but I just want to thank you all. Thank you, talented young people, for representing this community. Now we have to move on, but thank y'all. The Amazing Shake finalists.
All right, Ms. Baltimore, and you going to take it from there? Mr. Jones, you coming up at the beginning too, or is she introducing you? All right.
Introduce them.
Work.
Just to echo support for the arts, I mean, my daughter, thanks to Thurman Francis in Rockvale, she has a full ride scholarship for music. My nephew is Austin Baker, he plays the trumpet for Stewart's Creek. He carried the American flag. And my son is at Blackman High in the band. It's amazing. We love it. So thank you for these programs and all that you do. So I'm here tonight because of the Amazing Shake. It's a contest that allows our students to learn manners, discipline, respect, and how to conduct themselves in a professional environment. In partnership with Rutherford Works, this yearly contest allows students in grades 4 through 8 to be tested on those skills in a fun and memorable experience that enables us to engage with local business leaders on behalf of the school district. So I would like to introduce Greg Jones and Ashley. They're here on behalf of Rutherford Works. They're going to tell you a little bit more about the program.
Thank you, Amy. My name is Greg Jones. I'm with Rutherford Works, which is part of the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce. Sitting here looking at the slogan up there, investing in our students for tomorrow's possibilities. That's a lot of the work that we do in Rutherford Works. We're constantly trying to come up with ways and things that we can do to help accelerate students' careers. Well, one of those is the Amazing Shake. We held this competition back on January the 30th. Our competition was 16 schools. 13 of those was the Murfreesboro City Schools, and the other 3 of those were city schools, and 13 was the county schools. Before that work, though, a lot of work went on at each one of those 16 schools. I want to compliment the chaperones, the teachers, the administration at each one of those schools, because what they did is they held a competition within their school to narrow it down the best of the best within their school, and then each one of those schools sent us 2 entrants, 2 students. So out of 16, we had 32 students that came to us that day. We went through a series of competitions that day. We started out by training them on etiquette, eating etiquette, and also we trained them on writing just a good old-fashioned thank you note. Those things are they're pretty good in prior world. Today's world, they're pretty good as well. So we did that, and then after we did those 2 things, we moved into the judging part of the competition. I think they were relieved to know that they weren't being judged on those first 2 things, on the etiquette. But the start of the judging of the competition, they sat down and had lunch with some of our local business leaders. And while they had that lunch, they were being judged on what they were doing. So the etiquette training came in handy. After that, we moved on to 2 other competitions, one of those being like a speed networking, to where each student walks up to one of our business leaders that were doing the judging, shakes their hand. We prepared them some business cards, so they start the conversation with, by the way, my name is Greg Jones. Start that out, and they had about a 2-minute session with each one of those business leaders, and then they moved on to the next one. After that competition, then we moved them through what we call the gauntlets, and that's where it really got busy and really got pretty hectic for a lot of our students. It's 16 different stations, and they will come up, they're told a scenario of what they're about to present. They're given 1 minute to look at the scenario, and then they have to start acting right in front of 2 judges. Those scenarios can range anywhere from a presidential address to a cooking show. Somebody having to sit there and do a cooking show, construction work site, So as they're presenting this, I think probably one of my favorites is the Weather Channel. They have to stand up there, and there's a tornado warning for Rutherford County, and they have to, say what they're going to be telling their viewers. And so we have some from time to time that'll get the wind blown, look like the Jim Cantor of the Weather Channel. So it's a pretty good one.
Can they announce a 2-hour delay next time? I'd like for somebody else.
Right.
Curious.
Yeah, we'll work that in.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
See all the process that goes into it. Yeah. Anyway, they cycle through those 16 stations. They're judged at each one of those stations. And then that's the ending of our judging competition. We get together and we start going through the scores. But then we take each one of the students through a tour through TCAT. Tennessee College of Applied Technology was the facility that hosted us that day, to where they can learn about careers by going through the TCATs, by getting a 13 to 18 month certification and coming out of there making very good salaries. So we wanted to expose them to that. We then went and we flipped the big room at TCATs, and we got ready for our evening events, and that's where we announced our winners. And at this moment, I'd like to turn it back over to Amy, and you're going to announce our winners.
All right, so as you heard, the competition introduces students to the networks, roles, and opportunities and career paths that they might not have been exposed to before. So they learn how to develop those professional qualities with a proper handshake. So you'll see that in just a minute. As I introduce them, they'll walk over to Greg and Ashley, and then they'll go and get their picture taken. We want them to know those skills so they're able to present themselves exceptionally well for opportunities today and in the future. It's my pleasure to introduce the 3 students who won the regional contest sponsored by Rutherford Works. These 3 students are headed to Atlanta in March to represent Rutherford County Schools at the Global Amazing Shake competition hosted by Ron Clark Academy. First of all, if I could introduce 8th grader from Eagleville School, Emily Bird. And from Homer Pittard Campus School, 5th grader, Addison Ramsey. And finally, from Rocky Fork Middle School, 7th grader, Leedy Vega. We are grateful to Rutherford Works for their sponsorship of this program. It cannot be done without their support. And thank you for the support of the schools who participate. We are hoping to see the program grow even more in the years to come. All are welcome, grades 4 through 8. Thank you.
I want to thank Mr. Tidwell. He was there for the night that we had that as well. So thank you for attending, Mr. Tidwell. And I always like when we have a clean sweep as well. So we had a clean sweep of that. So it was nice.
It's all right.
Thank you, Greg.
All right. The last part, but not the least part, of course, of Rutherford Proud is our monthly Strong Outstanding Staff Awards. Really have enjoyed doing this year, and I want to say that how grateful I am for Alan Schuer and Chris Braggins over here of Sonic. They like doing it so much that before the meeting, without being prompted, they told me, hey, we're in for next year. If there's any talk about it, we want to do it again. So I want to give them a round of applause first. So they're managing partners with the Sonics of Rutherford County. They've been sponsoring these awards all year. We've got 3 more rounds after tonight, so just very grateful for their involvement and their support of our schools and our staff. And I just really want to say how great it is for us to be starting our school board meetings, recognizing some of the great things that are happening. We had a discussion this morning like, what do we need to do at the next meeting? And there's so many things to be proud of that we're having to schedule these out several weeks in advance. So we're just grateful for that and thank the school board for recognizing them. So tonight, the way these Strong Outstanding Staff Awards work is that people nominate them and then we do a random drawing. But I'm able to then read some of the comments. So the first employee I want to recognize tonight that we want to recognize is Miss Kelly Garner, who's the assistant principal at Cedar Grove. So the person who nominated her said, Miss Garner is very enthusiastic when it comes to working with our students at Cedar Grove. She comes around in the mornings and checks in and makes sure that we all have a smile on our faces and that every kid is loved and taken care of. She is an outstanding person and an administrator. So, don't go anywhere. We're going to do a photo. Okay, Miss Sue Haley. All right. Miss Haley is with Eagleville School. She's a custodian there, and it says, I am honored to nominate Miss Sue Haley for recognition as an outstanding employee at Eagleville. For as long as I've known her, Sue has exemplified what it means to be a servant leader. She's incredibly hardworking, always going above and beyond her role as custodian to serve the school community in countless ways. Sue has been a vital part of our school community for as long as I can remember, and I can think of no one more deserving of this recognition. She would give her last dime to another in need without a thought. Her unwavering commitment to others, her hard work, and her servant leadership make her an invaluable member of our school and district. I am proud to nominate Sue Haley for this honor. And she makes incredible sausage balls if you've never had her sausage balls. I was hoping she'd bring some tonight, but she did not. Okay. Ashley Moore is a math teacher at Oakland High School. Ms. Moore. I like all of our nominations, but I love when it comes from a student or a parent. This one came from a parent. Ms. Moore took a proactive approach in recognizing ways to help my son improve his grades and overall experience in her class. She reached out to me by phone with the intent to pinpoint some ways she could help with my child be successful in her class. She took the time to listen to me and my input as well. The phone call was simple and to the point, but something about her just making that phone call showed me that she cared about my child and wants to see him succeed. I would love to see her recognized for being such an involved teacher. Thank you. Okay, and then our final award tonight is for Miss Renee Patrick, who is a bus contractor. Renee goes above and beyond her students that ride her bus. When kindergarten students were nervous to ride the bus, she took the time out on a Sunday afternoon and drove her bus to the neighborhood to show kindergarten students and to help them feel more comfortable. She is always willing to help and always has a smile on her face. Again, thank you. All right. So we're going to do one big photo over here, and then we'll get you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, we have public comment, and we have two speakers tonight. And our first speaker is Miss Sarah Long.
Hi, my name is Sarah Long. I'm here tonight to talk to you guys about Springs Empower Academy. This is the newest charter school here in Rutherford County. I understand that charter schools often face scrutiny, but before anyone dismisses my concerns, I want to be very clear. I did my research. I read all 489 pages of the approved application, and on page 7, the thing that assured me the most was, and I quote, "They follow all federal, state, and local laws that pertain to operating a public school." Many young parents, including myself, chose Springs Empower because we felt the schools that we were zoned for in Rutherford County were overpopulated and our kids were underserved. Springs Empower promised parent involvement, individualized learning, smaller classrooms, and more educational growth. But here's what we really got. A principal that only became state certified as of January 22nd, 2025, this year. Unlicensed teachers and long-term subs that are leading classrooms. There was not a certified special education teacher up until December 2024. What that means is that any child in Springs Empower Academy that had an IEP has not had the proper legally binding services for months. This includes 50 plus hours my own child has not received in services. As a parent, I should not have to be the one to uncover these failures. I should not have to file an administrative complaint to the Special Education Legal Service Department just to see action taken. And I certainly should not be facing retaliation or exclusion from volunteering simply for raising legitimate concerns to the school. Every day I drop off my child wondering and asking an 11-year-old, is there actual learning happening? Who is your teacher today? Did you see the special education teacher? How is the school allowed to open without these critical issues being addressed? No teachers, no principals, no special education teacher. This isn't just a failure, it's a violation of trust and responsibility to the students and the families that relied on the school's commitments. I urge you to investigate these matters thoroughly. No more kids should be falling further behind due to lack of oversight. All parents and students deserve the education they were promised. I encourage you, the board members, to reach out to me for additional details. You can reach me at saralong0913@gmail.com. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Heather Cook. Okay, apparently Ms. Cook is not with us this evening. So moving on to number 9, instruction.
This is tab 2, our 25-26 special courses request. The instruction department is requesting permission to make an application to offer credit for special courses under the following guidelines. Rule 052013-05-2A, local school systems may offer special courses not listed in 052013-06 on an experimental basis. The Commissioner of Education must approve each course in advance each year. Rutherford County High Schools are requesting approval for the following special course requests: Anthropology, Global Diplomacy, Native American History, Positive Psychology, U.S. Presidency. All of these are a renewal. Recommended motions to approve the 25-26 special course requests for Rutherford County High Schools as presented.
Any questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tidwell. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 2, ESL stipend.
We have ESL departments requesting that Naomi Rodriguez, an ESL teacher at Rock Springs Elementary, be paid $1,200, $50 per hour, from the Title III immigrant grant to teach an ESL parent class. Ms. Rodriguez is taking the place of a teacher who has resigned. And you see the recommended motion below.
Any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Tidwell. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Sharp.
Yes, we need to go back to the top of the page, number F, stipend.
This one?
Yeah, we missed one. Oh, sorry, they just went right. Thank you.
That's what we're on right now.
Yes, thank you. We did. Excuse me.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and vote again?
No.
Okay,
No.
okay, thank you. Number 10, Human Resources.
We have an additional school nurse position, request for one additional nursing staff due to increasing medical procedures at Riverdale and Rockville High School. Health Services Department is requesting one new school nurse position. Currently, these two schools share a second school nurse. This added position will allow both large high schools to have two school nurses. You see the recommended motion below.
Any comments or questions?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Darby. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 2, Teach Now.
Teach Now and Grow Your Own Clinical Educator Stipend. The Rutherford Teach Now and Grow Your Own Apprentice programs would like to allocate $15,000 of general purpose funds to compensate clinical educators for their support of 98 Rutherford Teach Now candidates and 18 Grow Your Own apprentices. These clinical educators serve as the on-site support team for our aspiring teachers, complete mentor training, meet regularly with their apprentices, and report competency evaluations for program completion. Being assigned to clinical educators is a state requirement of both programs. The state newly required compensation for clinical educators assigned to support the Grow Your Own apprentices. The costs associated with Rutherford Teach Now clinical educator stipends are factored into the tuition and program fees collected from each candidate. Recommended motions to approve the request to allocate $15,000 of GP funds to provide stipends for Grow Your Own and Rutherford Teach Now clinical educators as presented.
Any comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Rosales. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. I believe we have one tenure.
Yes, we have one tenure recommendation. We have one teacher who met the criteria that was inadvertently left off, and so just a recommended motion to approve that individual for tenure.
I'll recommend a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Thank you, Ms. Rosales. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. Number 11, Legal.
First one is just a continuation of our TSBA Board of Distinction program, recognizing school boards for their work. School boards that seek this designation must meet specified requirements in 4 key areas: planning, policy, promotion, and board development. One of the requirements is annual review and maintenance of our entire policy, which we're continuing. And I think we got notice that it actually shipped, our award did, for Board of Distinction. So
Excellent.
we'll have that presented to us at some point in the near future. And so,
Number 2.
Number 2 is transfer student under discipline. The board's been requested to admit a transfer student from another school system under discipline. The student was expelled for possession of marijuana. According to policy 6.318, the board may deny admissions of any student except those in state custody when a student transfers from another school system while under suspension or expulsion. Director of Schools' recommendation is to deny, but the board can take up any motion they wish.
I will entertain a motion.
Move to deny.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Second.
Rather. Thank you, Mr. Tidwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. Deny. Number 3, policy adoption, and I think we can put these all together in one, since we've
Is there any disagreement to that?
disagreement? Okay.
Okay. Policy adoption, second reading of 2 readings. These policies were recommended on the first reading on February 6, 2025. So the policy changes: A, policy 2.808, purchase orders and contracts, adds language of exemptions from purchase order requirements. B, policy 4.603, promotion and retention, adds language regarding requests for retention to be in writing pursuant to the State Board of Education regulation. C, policy 5.118, background investigation, adds language regarding background checks and FBI rat-back program for employees and other individuals having proximity to students. D, policy 5.500, discrimination, harassment of employees, adds language to align with state and federal law. And then E, policy 6.204, attendance of non-resident students, clarifies the geographical boundary for non-resident students.
Any comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tidwell. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 12.
This is a contract agreement between MTSU and RCS. Tab 4, MTSU seeks to be a Central Magnet School sponsor. MTSU proposes a contract in which MTSU may sponsor activities and place advertising at Central Magnet School. MTSU requests permission to place signage, which is detailed in the contract attachment A. MTSU proposes to pay $5,000 per year for 5 years. The contract terms are July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2030.
This is a wonderful thing, and I'm so glad that they've been around to partner with all of our schools and do this for all of our schools. Comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Thank you, Ms. Sharp. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Number 13, we have a resolution.
This is a resolution we read last week. Mr. Tidwell had proposed. This is a resolution for a pilot chess program for the state. And what the resolution requests is that the governor's office develop and fund a 3-year grant for a pilot program consisting of the following components and funding allocation: teacher training and chess materials, $70,000 annually; workshops to train teachers in incorporating chess into their lesson plan; resources, curriculum materials, chess sets, and boards for teachers; student engagement events of $5,000 annually; events to foster a sense of community and healthy competition; research and evaluation, $15,000 annually; collaboration with educational researchers to monitor and evaluate the impact of chess instruction on scholastic achievement; regular assessment of the cognitive and educational effects of the program; program administration and outreach of $10,000 annually; administrative support, community outreach and awareness campaigns; and be it further resolved, the Board of Education calls upon state legislators, the Tennessee Department of Education, and other relevant stakeholders to consider these proposals earnestly and act swiftly to implement these necessary changes, and that a copy of this resolution be distributed to the governor, state legislators, and the Tennessee Department of Education. So that's the proposed resolution that Mr. Tidwell has brought before the board tonight.
Ms. Maxwell.
Yes, Mr. Tidwell.
I'd just like to thank Rob Mitchell, the property assessor. He's been kind of the forefront guy on this, and Mike Sparks, who's also kind of been a helper in getting this moving, as well as Ms. Maxwell was a supporter. I think this is a great program if it can get off the ground. It sounds like they have more support this year than we ran it last year, so I'd love to see this move forward.
Absolutely.
And this was asked of the board, so we'd love to see it be supported here.
Yes, I wholeheartedly support this, and I think it's a wonderful program for all of our schools and can reach a lot of our students. Any other questions, comments?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Tidwell. Thank you, Ms. Rosales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now we have the financial report.
We'll do our financial report since we're meeting on Monday today. We'll do it next Tuesday or Thursday once all of February's payrolls run.
Okay.
We still have a payroll to run for this week.
What about director's update?
Yes, several things. One, we have it'll be on the next board agenda if there's questions or things that any board member wants to talk about, but you guys can, I promise it wasn't a setup, but we've had issues with our mics tonight. We have a quote, it's $82,000 to replace our mic system. That does include 2 extra TVs for people to be able to view that are in the audience if we feel like it's needed. If we don't feel like that's needed, those are things that we can take out of that quote, but I will send that, and that way we can have conversations. But that was part of county government as well, because it is not just us that runs it, it is RCTV, and it has to connect with IT at the courthouse.
And how much was the cost again?
$82,428.
Okay.
So. I promise it was not a setup. Actually,
Watching him all night.
no, he didn't know about this tonight. I promise. $100,000 100% promise. We actually talked about it in leadership today, did we not? Yeah, so we talked, and I promise you it was not a sit-up because it was driving me nuts. And I promise you, John is a nervous wreck with it doing this today. He gets very nervous when it doesn't do this. But if the TVs are something that we want to take out, we can take those out to save money as well from that. But we'll have that at the next board meeting to be able to discuss to look at, because we've talked about our mics being a hot mess for a while.
Yes.
John, do you know when the last time they were updated? Or have they been updated? So it's been.
Oh, that was a while.
So it's been.
Yeah.
Not since I've been on the board.
So it's been a minute. So that is one. Number two, I want to thank our principals for being here. I know there's several of them here, and so I appreciate you guys. We've had a long time together. We had a job fair on Saturday, and so then they're here tonight. So appreciate you guys' support and for being here. Several of them here, several dozen here, so thank you guys. We had a job fair. I want to thank HR, Dr. Anthony, and your team. Also want to thank our Teach Now program, which is kind of HR, kind of instruction as well. Is definitely the best job fair we have had since pre-COVID, for sure. It shows several good things. That one, we talk about with our principals in our central office, that our culture has to be what sets us apart. And so our district culture and our school culture is strong, and that is evident because we had people from surrounding districts attend our job fair that we normally don't attract. And so that was a very strong indication for us that things are moving in the right direction and are in the right direction. I also want to give the board a shout out because there were two things that were talked about outside of our culture. Was being on the state insurance plan helps us be able to attract people that we didn't used to get in the past. And then second, our pay scale going past year 21. We used to lose teachers to a neighboring district because they went past year 21, and we're getting teachers, experienced teachers back. And so that is a definite benefit. And so we had so many people at our Teach Now booth the other day. We had MTSU there as well as a partner, and we had to start sending people to the MTSU booth because we had too many people first. And so that was a nice change. We have Teacher of the Year tomorrow. Doors open at 3:30, is that right? Actually, a little bit earlier. 3:30, but program starts at 4, but a little bit earlier. We will start officially at 4, and then Health and Education is after that tomorrow night, and then bids go out for the hopefully new middle school Friday, and we will open those March 20th will be the day that goes out. So lots of good things going on.
Excellent.
Yep.
Mr. Vaught, do you have anything to send us state-wise or federally wise regarding education?
If I made a comment about the federal right now, it would just purely be speculative, okay? So, no, I do not know that. But statewide, those of you that keep up with the TSBA legislative notes, a couple of things moving kind of fast was the one about local school boards being able to limit social media use. Electronic use, I think, is probably a better terminology there. It's getting a lot of traction. I don't know that we won't have that laid in our lap before it's over with. And I also, I've got if I can find it, an email from Charlie Bone from Sunday night. Do you know about this, about the advancement of the payment, which, you know, that's not a big, it's not a big deal, but 2 weeks could be a big deal from a cash flow standpoint. So those are a couple of things that I thought were interesting this week, but other than that, really nothing else. I think everybody knows where most of the bills are that are heading to the calendar right now. So anyway, anything specific that y'all want me to try to find out, I'll be glad to. A couple of things I've asked for, and this has to do with the school buses, is one is trying to get that, you know, the mileage increase, but also too, I've asked the possibility about whether or not they would waive sales tax on the purchase of a new school bus. They waive it for the county, my understanding. Now, I might be wrong right there, but they waive it for the counties. But individual contractors, they don't waive it for. So us being only one of 4 counties in the state, I think, that our contractors should have that same privilege as in my view, now this is Stan's personal opinion, that sales tax, not having to pay sales tax on the purchase of a new bus could go a long way to lowering their operational costs. And so with that said, I've got a couple of questions I want to add about transportation, but we'll move on and come back to me on that. But that's it for TSBA right now.
Thank you. I do have one thing during general discussion. Mr. Reed, I believe you may have a little bit of information for us regarding some property we've been interested in, potentially.
We've been looking at, as you remember, the family had a court hearing on the 14th of February to get court approval to allow some of the people we've been dealing with to move forward with the sale of the property. That has happened, so the court did approve the property going to the people we've been dealing with. So there's deeds that have to be signed in accordance with that. I met with the attorney for the owner, and things are progressing on the contract for that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Reed, sorry, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Ms. Darby.
I was trying to catch him before he sat down. Do you have a time frame?
I would expect by the end of March we'll have something to come to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Vaughn?
I got two things I'd like to address in the general discussion. The comment tonight about Smith Springs Charter School, I'd just like for everybody that's watching us tonight, Rutherford County Schools did not approve this charter. This is...
Yeah, we did.
Oh, we did?
We did, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Not everyone here approved it, but the board,
It did pass.
it did pass by the board, not
Okay.
everyone is sitting
My
there.
mistake.
So it's, the RCS is authorized.
All right. The second thing, I'd like to make a motion to all the remaining books that, I'd like to make a motion we remove all those books, because any book that I think that could cause any child to stumble in any way, it doesn't need to be in our school libraries. There's so many great books out there that could give the students the same literary education that these books supposedly have. There's many other great books that could do the same thing. And these books, been so much controversy and all like that, and I can't see the value in these books, and I'd just like to make a motion we remove all of them so we can get down to business of running the school system and not have to worry about books. That's my 2 cents. I'm like Mr.
Motion, Mr. Tidwell.
I appreciate the heart behind it, but I think we probably should still continue to look at them individually as we make decisions moving forward. But I did want to mention one thing that Mr. Vaught had said. I think it's about 9,000. Is that the number, roughly, the sales tax for?
Just one quick. If Mr. Vaughn did make a motion, and before we move on, real quick, is there a second to this? I'm sorry, Mr. Vaughn, it dies due to the lack of a second.
Y'all must enjoy voting on these.
Now, Mr. Tidwell, I'm sorry, go ahead, yeah.
Okay, I was just going to feedback to Mr. Vaught. I think it was around $9,000. It's roughly what a 90-passenger bus was. That's a significant amount of money. And if they're using them for the school district anyways, and I think he said 3, so you've got all these other counties that are buying their own buses that are getting that tax exempt. To me, it makes sense. And I don't think there's a whole logical leap that one has to take to get there. It just is common sense. I wish we could get that off the ground. I don't know how we can, but that would be very useful for our bus contractors, especially during this negotiation. But I just also want to get a quick shout out to Stewart's Creek. These shirts are awesome. The decor they did on all of their drum sets and everything, that was awesome. I mean, it really just stood out. I love the Amazing Shake. I know we had those guys up here. Y'all know it's one of my favorite programs. I'd love to see it in every single school, elementary and middle school. And just congratulations to those that are advancing on. So.
Any others?
Ms. Maxwell?
Yes, Mr. Salas.
Mr. Vaught, you were brought up, I mean, it's actually is a good idea
to try to figure out how to get the sales, for them to be exempt from the sales tax. Is that something that's being talked about from a legislation point of view? Or is this just a conversation that's...
This is a pipe dream on my end,
okay.
but there is a small possibility, since the bill is on the floor right now about extending the mileage, there's a possibility that this could be a piggyback amendment.
Okay.
I think it's going to cause a lot of controversy, but the discussion that I've had with a couple of legislators is that it does make sense. Why has, and I can't believe it hadn't been brought up before, but you know, I don't weave my way through the Capitol like I used to, but I'm going to try. You know, if it doesn't get through this year, maybe we do next year. So anyway.
This would be, sorry.
I have a question. So the school, the status, is it considered, Dr. Sullivan, when you do purchases, do you get charged? We don't get charged sales tax. We're tax exempt, exactly. So if hypothetically, and please do not think that that's what we're doing, but if we were to be the ones to purchase these buses, we will be tax exempt, correct? So it makes sense then that if these contractors are buying the buses for the purpose of being an extension for the school system, that they will be exempt as well because it'll be serving. I mean, granted, it's not a nonprofit that is buying it; it's an individual. But I don't know how that will work out.
Be a comptroller question, not me.
Huh?
That'd be for the comptroller to decide.
Sure, yeah, but it makes sense in the standpoint of who they're serving. Is what I'm.
I think this is a unique situation due to the fact that we do use independent contractors.
Yeah, and I'm okay. Y'all want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. I'm going to dive off in it. The logic behind it with me is that some of you may know this, some of you may not. There are a lot of capital purchases that farmers make that are tax exempt because they're basically a wholesale operation. They're creating a product, they sell it to a manufacturer or a processor, and then the sales tax is collected there. In my view, the same logic applies here, is that if to level the playing field, and this was something I wanted to kind of bring up, because I'm fixing to ask you a question, if it's okay in general discussion, is that to me, what we're after, and when I say this, Rutherford County, this board, we're after the most efficient way to transport our students the safest way possible to and from school. Mm-hmm. And we've got a great group of people that does that right now. Okay, so why couldn't you level the playing field a little bit? $9,000, that's a lot of money. You capitalize it over a 15-year period of time. Yeah, it's not that much money, but it is that much money on the front end. It could make or break, a young contractor starting out, a first-time bus driver or something like that. It could make the difference in them being able to pencil out a profit and not. Which leads me to my next point to Mr. Lee maybe. Has there been any cost analysis done on, say, a 78 passenger versus a 84 passenger versus 90? And if there hasn't, could we get maybe that information from the bus manufacturers? Because I'm sure they've got an operational cost. I had a discussion with some of my good friends that are contractors, and they were concerned about us dropping, if we went back to a 78 passenger bus, how would that affect their operational cost? How would it affect their profit margin? And so logically to me, it's going to be a little cheaper to operate a 78 passenger bus, especially if you can buy that bus for $130,000 versus $180,000. Yes, you're losing some seat rate there, but you maybe make up some difference in either being able to run a natural gas bus, a gas bus. Gas is cheaper than diesel right now. Has there been any information put together from an operational standpoint yet?
No.
That was a lot. I asked you a lot right there. I'm sorry.
The answer is yes and no. We have done some analysis. We have not compared all three, and you would also be wanting to compare a 34 passenger special education bus to a 28 or a 22.
Yes,
So
yes.
there's a couple of different scenarios. most of a large number of our special education buses are just about all gas. Not all.
Right.
There's even a few propanes coming. And then the larger buses, it's kind of a mix. But there's been a little bit, but I will be glad to gather that information and get something back for you next week.
Thank you. I just think it'd be valuable to us to look at it because from my standpoint, there's some routes that are going to be jam-packed. You know, if the bus held 120 kids, it probably still wouldn't be enough, right? But then there may be some rural routes in the county that may not fill up a 78-passenger bus. I don't know. Obviously, you try to stage all this, but then there becomes an economy of scale, transportation, time, you know, getting the kids to school on time and that kind of thing.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we're looking at being as fair and equitable in the contracts as possible. So we looked at it today, and so our bus contractors are aware. When we look at having differences, and this is something for the board to be aware of, when we look at having different bus seat options, that then makes the availability to change bus routes, which is something that I know bus contractors don't like either, because you have your route, you don't want to change your route. But from an operational standpoint, if we have somebody on a 90-passenger route and it's time to upgrade a bus, but that route doesn't need 90 passengers anymore, it makes more sense for us to be able to move that route. Now somebody's on a 78-passenger bus. As time shifts, we get to the point where we may have to add 6 new routes instead from a cost perspective. And that's the give and take that I mean, it'll be up to the board on what we need to look at, but that is the other argument for why we have 90 passengers specified across, so that there was less argument for you're keeping everybody's routes in their location of where they are. So there is a downside. There's a plus side in giving that option to be able to purchase the different side, but there's a downside truly in operations of now we're going to have to start shifting routes, which really starts moving people's routes around and affecting really their operations, which we don't want to do, but otherwise you start increasing cost in a completely different way. And so that's just the other side that we really started talking about and discussing today.
Yes, Mr. Bond.
Talking about one other thing about the bus thing, I guess that troubles me a little bit. The insurance that the county's been carrying now, the burden is on the drivers. I think the big expense of that insurance cost to the contractors is insuring the kids, I think. Is there any, is the school system allowed to insure the kids and the contractors insure everything else? Is that possible?
We had a good 3 hours today, didn't we? I mean, it was great. No, you don't have to look at me like that, Mr. Reed. I enjoyed our time together.
Nice. So
this wasn't a bad time.
No, it was fine. No.
Okay, good.
now, the way liability insurance works with respect to buses, and these is with all motor vehicles, you have kind of a couple layers of liability insurance. You have collision insurance, which covers an automobile in motion. So that is the coverage that kicks in when an accident occurs, and there's some motion going on when an accident occurs. You also have, the bus contractors will want to have business liability insurance, which would cover them in the event there's some injury or liability that occurs while a bus is not in motion, while it's discharging kids, picking up kids, or someone's injured in that process. The liability policies are written to cover the students, including the employee of the bus driver, of the bus contractor, and any third parties who may make a claim against that bus contractor for liability occurring as a result of an accident occurring of some sort. There's the way the policies are written for liability, there's no real way to bifurcate and say, well, the bus contractor is not insuring the students, because the students are on the bus when the bus is being operated, so it's going to be covered under the collision portion of the policy and also under the business liability portion of the policy. So the whole purpose of the state legislation, whether I know we did not advocate for it, but the whole purpose of the state legislation was to make sure that contractors have insurance to cover the operation of buses and students on those buses. So in the end, the insurance the bus contractors will be required to keep will be one that insures not only the bus owner, but it will insure the bus driver of that bus and the students that are on that bus as well. So that's the way the insurance will be set up. In addition, we've asked for an umbrella policy be obtained by our contractors, which is normal and fairly routine in these type of matters. So we've asked for $1 million of coverage for auto collision, $1 million of coverage for business liability, and a $2 million insurance liability umbrella policy that would overlap those two coverages that would provide a bus contractor a total coverage package of $3 million for collision and for business liability. So in today's world, that's not a very high amount. Some bus contractors may very well want to buy more, but we're trying to keep the amounts low so it would be a reasonable cost for the contractors. I know what we've been looking to do and what our discussions have been with the contractors has been that we will incorporate some provision into the contract and be proposing that to the board, where the board adds an amount to be paid to contractors to cover the cost of the liability insurance that they're having to purchase. So we're getting quotes from multiple agents to kind of figure out and gauge what that amount would be. But I would envision that the bus contract that comes back to the board will be one that will have a specific line item in there that you get paid X dollars per bus for liability insurance. So, but in the end, I wish there was a way to get those students bifurcated out, but the way the insurance industry works with liability and the way adjusters handle those claims, the policy would cover all students as well.
This is what we're going to be requiring them to have. The minimum is what you were quoting.
It's up for the board to decide.
Okay.
But my recommendation would be to require a minimum of $1 million collision auto coverage, $1 million of business liability coverage, with a $2 million umbrella that overlaps both of those. So in the end, they would have $3 million of coverage total. The bulk of your insurance premium is really related to the purchase of the initial $1 million liability coverage amounts. The umbrella policies are generally fairly inexpensive as opposed to the base policy you buy. So there may be some contractors who choose to buy a $5 million umbrella or a $3 million umbrella. So depending on how many buses they have to operate, which they can do, but the minimum that I would propose the school system require is a $2 million umbrella that overlays on top of their $1 million in coverage.
We're going to propose that we then put funding into our recommended line item to cover some of that.
So we're bringing funding to cover some of that? Okay. So is it, maybe you've already sent it, the routes and the inventory of how many students are in each route for the 90-passenger bus. And the reason I'm asking is that because I understand what you're saying, that if there's a 90-passenger bus, then it doesn't shift anything. But if there's that option for that year to use a bus.
It'll shift every time a new bus is purchased, potentially. And throughout the year, you're not going to shift. You may shift 5 to 10 routes throughout a year to where we have to add a new route. And so that's the concern of somebody who has driven Smyrna High School forever. If they go down to a 78-passenger bus, we need a 90-passenger bus there. And so now we're going to have to shift somebody to Smyrna, shift that person somewhere else. And so you're having to shift 2 because of a different person.
Right, but I think what I'm saying is that we're not going to do any shifting. So if there is a bus route that they have in a contract and it's less than 90, could they have the option for that particular academic year?
If the school doesn't grow.
Do we have instances where the school grows and the bus route grows?
Year after year after, yes, because the
So you
kids
may
move,
start
the
with
kids
seven-
shift, yes, and
Well, the
we change
reason-
routes throughout depending on where the kids
Sure. Because the reason I'm asking that is because last time we were here and they were talking about how they're not getting the routes that are full, like their bus, not all of the routes are full. They're full, so that's what I was asking. So if there are some routes that don't have the night, that are not going to fill up the entire, could those routes could there be that option to use a bus with a lower seat, because it gives them the option to be able to buy a bus at a cheaper price? Maybe it's used, it could be in a different county, whatever, because this academic year, for this route, they can use that. But it's not necessarily, we're taking away, we still require them to have the 90-passenger bus. We don't take that away.
It would work until it either grew or we rezoned. Because anytime we rezone, it could shift it as well, so it wouldn't be a guarantee. Yeah.
So you're saying that there's not, it
No way
doesn't
to
seem like a
guarantee it.
viable to use as an option?
I would love for it to be, but
To be feasible.
looking at how unique our district is with who actually rides the bus and who doesn't ride the bus, I don't know. I mean, you guys are shaking your head. I don't know a way to do it either. We brainstormed over it today. I'm trying to come up with a way, and I don't know a way. Yeah.
Mr. Tidwell.
Then why was there for us to think about shifting the
So
passenger?
I think everything's on the table, so we're trying to come up with ways to put things on the table to help.
I guess
We're
I'm
exploring.
confused because they came and said, if we can have that option, and then now it's saying, no, it's not. So
I think
it's
that's
just
something that they'll
confusing.
need to go back and discuss. Is it something to do where they want to go down to look at other seat rates or have the option to move routes? And if I'm just the routes are a lot of times tried, true, passed down through families and don't want to shift. And so,
Yeah, and that's fine. It's just that was an option that was
Mm-hmm.
brought, and they brought it up, and so now it's kind of confusing if it's not going to work, and everybody's shaking their heads, it's not going to work. But it was something that was brought up. But it's fine.
Mr. Tidwell, sorry.
Trey, do you have something?
It can work to allow a driver to buy, and I'm going to pick a number, a 78-passenger bus tomorrow used. But next year, if that district grows or we rezone, that 78-passenger bus is no longer an option. We need a 90-passenger bus. And I'm looking at a contractor right now. Are you going to go buy another bus after you've bought a 78 the very next year? Do you see what I'm saying? So once they make that investment, and I haven't seen anything in our lovely county in the last 5 years that tells me it's not going to grow next year. Even after we rezone, we're still going to grow. If we want to do that, and I'm all for it, a whole lot of work for routing and moving things, but what happens is they drive certain areas, they drop down to that bus, and within 2 years, and I'm just going to make it 2 years, that area grows, and now their bus is not large enough, so I need a 90-passenger bus. Now I'm going to call them up and go, hey, it's all great and wonderful, love your 78-passenger bus, but you're no longer driving in Kittrell. I'm going to send you down to Blackman because I need a 90-passenger bus there. And I'm speaking on their behalf at this point, and they don't like too much when I do that, but they're going to throw the biggest hissy fit you've ever seen because they've been asked to move out of their routes. They have, and I'm going to call them generational routes. They've been driving certain areas. And if you want to see me get hung from the flagpole, let me start recommending moving these drivers all over the county because they're driving smaller buses. It's a great idea.
Let's not give people that option, Trey.
And I think it's a wonderful, in some situations, and I'm going to pick an area, Eagleville, Rockvale, Kittrell, there are a few areas where we could get by with the smaller bus. The problem with that is those buses run on time because they're traveling further distances versus an inner town bus route that can pull up at one apartment complex and load up 70 kids and go to the trailer park a half a mile down the road, and they're loading up the rest of their 30 kids, and they're screaming at Wanda because they ain't got room for everybody on the bus. It's a very delicate balance to try and give them that flexibility. I don't have a problem with a 78-passenger bus, but they're not going to like it when I got to move them, and I'm not going to like it either because it's harder to route and pick and choose. If we owned our buses, then it don't matter where I send them. I can pick and choose short routes, long routes, short bus, long bus. I could take a 30-passenger bus. I can do all of that to benefit us because they're now employees and they work for us. We are very unique. And we have to, we take that into consideration when we do our routing. With the 90-passenger, it allows us to leave them where they are as long as possible. And if they want to go to a 78-passenger bus, we talked about it today, I'm going to give them a route. I'm going to give them a breakdown. If they want to go buy a 78-passenger bus, with the caveat that in 2 years, and I'm looking at one right now, he's shaking his head no. If he'll go buy it, I'll give him a route with the understanding that when he gets overloaded and I've got a choice of add another route at X amount of dollars, or I can move him and bring somebody else in that's got 100, they're not going to like it. So I get where they're coming from. I get why they brought it up. It does give them flexibility. It is easier to find used 78-passenger buses.
Well, I mean, if it's not going to work, then there's...
I can make it work. I'm just going to make them mad. Is what's going to happen. And I don't want that. I think we're trying to get to a place, somebody brought up that option of the different size buses. And I did what Dr. Sullivan asked. I sat down with him and Mr. Reed today. It's an educational thing. Yeah. Well, I do this.
Well, we don't need to continue hashing this
conversation. No, but that's what it is, and I'm not opposed to it, but that's the ramifications behind it.
Yeah, well, it was an option. Mm-hmm. We talked about it. Doesn't seem like it's a feasible option based on what everyone has said. But at least we're hearing what everyone is saying, mm-hmm. what they're bringing, and we're just trying to understand what's the best for our. So I appreciate you and Dr. Sullivan trying to have this conversation and to talk about if it works, great, and if it doesn't.
And that's why I wanted to, when
we brought concerts and what
I went in all for it and then left not for it. So
I'm sorry?
I went in all for it and left not for it. So.
But I appreciate you letting me bring that out because it is a little more complicated than just going and buying a smaller bus. And we can, but anyway, I'm sorry.
No, that's good. That's why I wanted to get some feedback. I guess it would all kind of depend, this is probably a much more complicated way of thinking about it, is the amount of students, amount of buses we have that are hitting those limits well below their capacities. And that generates a whole nother conversation as to whether, like you mentioned the Eagleville, the Kittrell, the more rural areas, if they're hitting that 90-minute mark, several of the contractors, and I have no idea, I'm just spitting out, but if they're hitting that 90-minute mark, well below their capacity, and that's a route that's remained that way even with the growth that we're having, but it's grown at a slower rate over years and years, and that could possibly be a contractor option to choose that, knowing the risk that might come with that later down the road if it shifts, but it's not necessarily off the table. It's more of an option than a requirement.
Yes, that is exactly correct. And we don't mind. Most of those contractors know who they are. Because they've been running those areas for a long time. And that's why I said I'm not opposed to providing it. Now, here's the thing. When they go from a 90 to a 78, or if they decide to step down even further to 34, their seat rates and their mileage rates go down, which benefits us. And I'm not opposed to it. They want to run a 33 versus a 98, and it works for me. I'm going to sign them up all day long. Because it will help us. Now, but I can say this, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they're there because they were closer to that capacity, and things do change. So yes, it is something that it is an option that we are willing to entertain with individual contractors. If they won't have the conversation, sure, we'd love to meet with them about it.
So if it makes sense for a particular...
Them and us, yes. Be glad to, yes.
Well, when they roll the dice, they got to make sure that they understand that it could cost them having to move the bus route.
Most of them have been driving their routes long enough that they know what those risks are. Now, however, I'm going to say there's a few areas that I thought was not going to grow anytime soon, and they're figuring out some way to, I saw one that's coming between Christiana and Rockvale, close to 700 homes. That
On Planning Commission tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Sure is.
And I'm not belittling anybody, not divulging any secrets because it's public knowledge, but if that thing hits, and that's an area that we thought we weren't going to see anything for a long time, that could really change some things.
Mr. Vaught, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was going to follow it up. Yeah, I mean, there's a subdivision coming online between Kroger and Las Casas right now, 110, and it's a rental neighborhood. They're mostly 4 and 5 bedroom houses, right? So if you end up and then I know the analysis the guy has done, he's saying it's 0.78 people per house, probably. But in a specific neighborhood like that, that's geared toward young families. I'm going to make a prediction there ends up being 2 kids in 110 houses. That's 220. You've got a problem. I'm pointing to my friends from Las Casas and all kids. There's 2 loads. There's more than 2 loads right there. There's 3 loads right there. Could be, depending on where they're going, whether they're coming back to Middle or going to Las Casas or come back to Oakland. You got 3 routes right there. My only point about bringing it up is trying to, I think we owe it to everybody, especially the taxpayers and to the county commission, that we explore every option to be able to maximize our dollars here. And doing some quick math off the top of my head, the difference in cost of a 78 passenger bus, I think it's about $1,700 per seat, versus a 90 passenger bus, it's about $2,000 or $2,050. So on a depreciated cost, and I may lose some people talking about that, it may not be a significant amount of money over a 15-year period of time, but I'll throw this out there. What if you've got somebody coming in with an old bus that's on 15 years right now, and it's me? I'm 70 years old. I want to drive 5 more years. I'm not going out there and buying a $200,000 bus at my age, but I might buy a 78 passenger bus if I found a used one to continue out and then let the next contractor take it. So that's the only reason I'm bringing this up, and kind of, I think it's perceived I'm pushing it. I'm not pushing it. I'm doing a cost analysis straight through on everything. I approach all our rental houses this way. I approach my farming operation this way. It's the only way. This is exactly the way we did PBA. We had to do cost analysis all the way through. We just don't go with our emotions or what we'd like to do. We owe it to the taxpayers and to this, our budget department, which he's fixing to get a good working out here in the next 90 days, how to stretch the dollar as far as we can, because the economy's tight. We've gone through 5 years of inflation. It's obvious these guys have taken it on the chin. They know it. We've all taken it on the chin. Everybody's looked at what their insurance has done, just in general, what food prices done. You want to have a little fun right now, talk about egg prices, I've seen it all my life. It goes up, it goes down. We see people get in agriculture, they get out in 3 years. You kind of got to grin and bear it sometimes, but you've got to look at all the cost analysis related to that where we don't make a huge capital mistake. That's my only plea to everybody here. So with that, I'm going to hush.
Ms. Darby, would you like to?
I just wanted to say, I can't see where it would be bad to have the option, and if a contractor chooses to purchase the smaller bus, I mean, leaving it on the table, I think, for those that would like to exercise that option instead of it having it be like an all or nothing with the 90 passenger. And if a contractor wants, to your point, wants to purchase a smaller, less expensive bus, the option is there for them. They don't have to take it. We could also look at maybe putting something like a first right of refusal in. If somebody had a route and it grew and it was going to need a bigger bus, giving them that option to retain it and get a larger bus or to let it go.
I'm all in.
Hey, does you all have a hitch 'em up for buses?
Sir?
Does you all have a hitch 'em up for buses?
I don't think so.
That may be a good investment. There you go.
Anybody else would like to interject?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Sharp, so sorry.
Thank you guys. I received a call last week from Mayor Cole, and fortunately for the Laverne Lake students, the county is passing on the Laverne Lake Convenience Center. So just want to let everybody know that, and thank you guys, since y'all, because of the inclement weather, we changed the meeting. Thank you for allowing me to be here with my mother today and allowing to Zoom in tonight. You all look fabulous from the eye above.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to? Yes, Mr. Tidwell.
I sent this to Dr. Sullivan, and I don't have all the facts currently, but the report card grade thing, if you're over 50%, apparently they're going to reward that type of high academics. And I think it's roughly estimated around $4 million. Is that right? Around $4 million will be coming to Rutherford County Schools for our high academic performance.
Anyone else?
And I think that's the max, isn't it? I think that was the top that you could earn. From what
Yeah,
it looks
oh, yeah.
like. Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?